You know, it's funny because I watched Justin Herbert have a 27-point lead at home in the playoffs and blow it.
That's tough.
I've watched a lot of guys
catching strays, baby.
Kirk Cousins, win 11 games, go into a home game of playoffs and lose to Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones gets a contract that puts him at 12 overall in the league. And once Burrow gets his, he'll be 13. And people freak out. He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it. Daniel Jones is a playoff-winning quarterback, and Daniel Jones had, no offense to these guys, he didn't have Justin Jefferson and Keenan Allen at wide receiver last year. I'm getting defensive of Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Derek Carr's never won a playoff game.
Derek Carr's never won a playoff game.
That's another stray. We're just doing strays. Derek Carr has nothing to do with the conversation. I want him in there.
Kyler, who'd rather have, he's the 13th highest paid quarterback in the league, and he's a guy who is 25 years old and won a playoff game on the road. I'd sign up for that. I think he's all right. He's got the respect of his teammates. So I don't think he needs to prove anyone wrong. And I think this year, he's going to do it again. I feel like he's going to have another good year, and he's going to win clutch games. He's only going to get better. And from all the things I hear, he was awesome in camp. So you now take a wide receiver room, which last year at the end of the season, who's he throwing to? He was throwing to Isaiah Hodgins, who was a great story, but was not a guy expected to be his number one receiver. And now you add in Darren Waller. You add in Paris Campbell. You give him Jalen Hyatt. These are real weapons. I don't think he has to prove anyone anything wrong. Last year, what he did is far more than what most quarterbacks in the league did last year. He just has to bring it again this year. So I'm defensive of Daniel Jones because I don't think he talks a big game. I don't think he's flashy. I don't think he's going to be voted to the NFL top 100 by anyone. But last year, he was a top 100 player.
Proved a lot last year. It was a huge step. To the question specifically of silence his doubters, everyone's I'm cool with Daniel Jones. I think he has to be the best player on this offense, the best. Because there's a thing right now with him where there's a little bit of an eye roll because he's the highest paid player, not because he's the best player, but because he plays the best position. We know that. Saquon Barkley is better at running back than Daniel Jones is a quarterback right now, but Daniel Jones has all this money. Become the best player. Jalen Hurts is the best player, I think, on the Eagles offense. He's better than Kelsey. I think he's better than everybody. Mahomes, all these guys, probably even Dak. Maybe CeeDee Lamb, who knows. Be the best guy on that offense because he can run the offense and be fine and do this and do that and even win another playoff game, but can't you just become a killer? This is a year of killers. I was listening to Mark Schlereth was on Rich Eisen yesterday, and he was talking about Hall of Famers. And he said, I was talking to John Lynch, and he's like, I can't really tell you what a Hall of Famer is, but I know one when I see one.
Wow.
I thought it was a cool quote. He's just that's a Hall of Famer. I want this season at the end of the year to be man, we're set with Jones. That we're never going to talk again about contracts this or extension this. We have a guy and we're going to have a guy for the next 10 years. I know it when I see it. I don't care about his stats. I don't even necessarily care at the end of the game if they won. I just know that when he breaks the huddle, that is the Giants quarterback.
Did you not feel that at the end of the season last year, the way he was playing?
Felt it came a long way. Really did. Really did. We just need more.
And I think he was their best player on offense last year. That's the thing. I feel like we just assume Saquon's better, but Jones,
I don't know. Saquon in the playoffs, too, was electric. Electric.
I think it's no question Saquon Barkley is their best player on offense. And I don't look at that as a slight to Daniel Jones. I look at that, if you look across the league, if you have a bona fide superstar at a skill position, if I'm on the same team as Devontae Adams, it may be hard to live up to that. A Tyreek Hill, certain guys, a Justin Jefferson, where it's just all right,
that guy's the best.
He is the best at what he does. And I may not be there. Tua may not be the best player on his offense as long as Tyreek is there. But I'm with you. I look at Daniel Jones. I remember last year starting the show in the summer, and we're like, all right, what does Daniel Jones have to do to earn a contract from the Giants to say, hey, you're our franchise guy? And we threw out, hey, when playoff games get to the playoffs because of him. And that game they're talking about in the playoffs, he threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and ran for over 70 yards. So it's not like he was just a passenger in their run last year. He went out there and he proved that, hey, I can be the guy for this franchise. Yeah. The next step is, when we look at Daniel Jones, is it, all right, he's really good, and we're set with him as our quarterback. Well, can you win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones? I think that now is the question where, all right, we know we feel like we have our guy. If we put the right pieces around him, do we feel like this is a team and a roster with him leading the way that we're like, all right, in the NFC, we got to figure out how to beat the Eagles, but hey, we're going to have an opportunity to play in that game. And to your point, adding a Darren Waller or Jalen Hyatt, you're adding speed and a lot of other options to this offense that he didn't have last year. He was out there balling with guys that, other than Saquon, you're just like, Okay, and that's no slight to those guys, but
For sure.
if you're a number 2 receiver and now you have a number 1 out there, a guy that they're focusing on, it helps your game flourish as well. So to your point, I think for Daniel Jones is going out there this year and proving that I'm a guy that can win a Super Bowl, and joint practices are different. The competition level rises up. You're hitting another guy in an opposite jersey. And to hear he struggled yesterday, now we're having this conversation today. But I think Daniel Jones is going to be okay. Is he a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl? I'm not ready to say, oh, yeah, I'm putting that stamp on that. Daniel Jones is leading them to a championship game. I don't know about that.
I focus on the word doubters in the first place and just ask the doubters, if you are a Giants fan and you're still doubting him, to just broaden your scope a little bit and maybe put it into comparison as to what other teams might be dealing with at the quarterback position, because what you have going on in terms of growth, I think, is pretty admirable at this point compared to what Daniel Jones did his first 3 compared to last season. You know, you know it when you see it, but you also know it when you don't have it. And all they have to do is look down the street at what the Jets just went through over the last couple of years. And the response that we saw in Hard Knocks last night from the Jets, having a guy under center, I mean, it was just total admiration for an hour as to the things that Aaron Rodgers can do. Giants fans, you have a quarterback. Be comfortable and happy with your quarterback. Broaden your scope outside the fact that I know within your division it's hard because you have a team that reached the Super Bowl, but look at the cascade in the NFC and be pleased with what you have and just work with it and allow for growth.
Would you not argue that Jalen Hurts wasn't what he was last year until he got A.J. Brown?
Right.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. Yeah.
So I'm still hung up on he's not the best player. Because I'm looking at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was an ensemble piece, and then he elevated his game with these great stars. I don't think the Giants had many stars. So now I'm not saying Waller's a star. I know, I'm a realist.
You never know, though. It could be a puzzle
Maybe
piece.
it is. And then I'm not saying Paris Campbell's a true number 1,
Yeah.
or Sterling Shepard is going to be like he was, or Wan'Dale Robinson. You can name all these guys.
He still doesn't have A.J. Brown.
He still doesn't have that A.J. Brown, so he has to take more on him. And I don't think the running back position, Saquon is an excellent running back, but I don't think when you have that A.J. Brown deep threat or the Tyreek Hill deep threat, Saquon's necessarily the same way that defensive coordinators stay up at night saying, how do we stop Saquon when he gets in the open? You know what I mean? So this is going to all be on Daniel Jones, and if he does it again, that's 2 years in a row. I feel like he's done it. Right?
I think something that Jason hit on too is very, very simple. If you're talking about this season, you have to do something about Philadelphia. Like you can't be the Giants quarterback and get your clock cleaned by the Eagles. Once a year, twice a year, 3 times in 1 year. Those are huge games for him. And they're at the end of the season. You'll have a whole another year with Waller and all these guys. I think in one sentence, it's beat the Eagles. And if you don't beat the Eagles this year, then you're kind of like second-tier guy. That's how it's going to be.
To your point, that playoff game where he throws for 300 yards the very next week,
Oh, it was terrible.
I don't even think he threw for 200
It's not
yards.
great.
They were down 28-0 in that game.
It was not a game.
The double-edged sword thing of this, where you're talking about, well, Saquon didn't get the money, but Daniel Jones did. I think that's going to be the conversation, especially if Daniel Jones falls on his face, and it's like, well, why do we?
And Saquon's brilliant.
Saquon's brilliant.
Yeah, I know.
But right now, they have them both on the roster. They all seem seemingly happy.
Giants Eagles week 16 and then again week 18. It's
That's
a
nuts.
long
That's
wait.
what
It's
matters.
a wild
Yeah,
thing.
crazy.
It's a wild thing.